Uprooted Theatrical Studios presents.
Well, how are you doing during this time?
So I'm good. I'm safe. I'm in a part of the world that's safe, or getting safer. Our cases, I'm in Massachusetts, and our cases are going down. We were pretty high at the beginning of the coronavirus, but taking a lot of precautions, and I'm super busy with some work I'm doing with the Huntington Theater Company. We're working on a series of short radio plays that are sort of aspirational, like what will life be like when we come back? And what are the places that we miss so much that we can't go to right now? So we've asked several area playwrights to write about the place they miss and that they can't really gather in the same way. So like one of them is set during the 4th of July. There's a big fireworks display with the Boston Pops. It's a very Boston thing. And, I wrote one at the Concord Bridge, which is one of the sort of the first spots of the American Revolution. And there's always like every year a big reenactment. And so we've been putting that together, and that's been super fun and interesting. And we feel like we can make things still, even though we can't gather in a traditional way for theater. We're still making things.
Yeah.
In a different medium and using different tools. And my just a lot of upheaval and chaos with family, and my story is probably pretty fine compared to most. So I'll say that. Yeah.
So you guys are doing radio plays. It's kind of, so I was reading on your website, you're doing also a series with Audible.
Yeah.
Is that kind of similar style? Because it's different than normal, I would assume. I'm not a playwright, but I would assume it's pretty different than writing a show you know is going to be put on stage.
It's a really different medium. So it's like writing for film is very different than writing for stage. So writing for the ear is also, you have to take in different things into consideration. Like one of the interesting things is you have to be really clear your characters can be differentiated, because it's sometimes hard to tell who's talking. So things like character's voice is really important, or if you can limit the number of people in a scene, that's sort of a thing you can do. Working very hard to make every voice distinctive, which is something you do normally, of course, in a play, but when you can see the person talking, you have an extra, an audience has an extra piece of information. Mm-hmm. And then there's things like, you just become very aware of what things sound like. What is the ambiance in the room? What's the one sound that's going to place it somewhere specific? So there's a lot of fun techniques like that you use and you think of. And then there's also people that are actually writing for Zoom, which seems really hard. Like I keep thinking, what are the scenarios where we can be on Zoom and have something dramatic happen? So I don't know. But I'm also just a sucker for a good old fashioned play reading. I really love those. And I've been really enjoying, seeing them, participating in them and all of that.
Yeah.
What have you been able to participate in any?
There's a theater company here in the area, and they contacted me about reading my play Sonia Flew, which is a play I wrote in 2004. It's been around. Mm-hmm. And then they asked me to read in it. So I read the main character of Sonia, which is also kind of fun because I had never, I wrote the play, but I'd never, that's my daughter, hi, read the play. But they, what they do is they get their theater community together, and so they don't generally have actors, they have community members reading. So it's really great. the point is to read the play out loud, not perform the play, you know, but they read the play out loud and talk about it. And then they've also been doing fun things like they read an episode of 30 Rock, and there's a couple of film scripts that they read. So they're really sort of trying to gauge what their community members like and enjoy, and they need a little comedy, they need a little drama. So that's been fun.
Oh, that's so cool that they got that opportunity for the community to do that.
Yeah.
It sounds like a lot of fun.
And it's not cast like at all according to gender or age. You know, there was like a much like an old grandfather kind of person reading the young woman's role, and you know, so it's not even.
It was really focusing about the script itself.
It's really focused on hearing the words and what, you know, what another company might be like, the artistic values. For them, it's all about like having people together on a Zoom call, doing it weekly, and you know, was really fun.
Yeah, that sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So you're also an actor.
Yes, I do also perform. I actually was an actor before I started writing plays. So I consider myself an actor first. I do it less now, just because life and like being an actor is really hard. It's really hard.
It is.
It's really hard.
So how did you get into acting?
Oh, I was just that kid. Yeah. I don't come from a theater family. I don't have theater, you know, in my family. I just always felt really happy and comfortable. Like I've always felt like I could be more myself on stage than I could off stage. And I love language, and there was something about being able to express, being allowed to express a very wide range of experiences, and being given tools to feel those things in a way that was safe, and that also brought an audience with you that I wasn't thinking that when I was, you know, 7, but I feel like that's what I've come to love about performing. Mm-hmm. And I feel like I bring an actor's insight into playwriting. So, because I'm thinking like an actor, so I tend to think of like, oh, what would be fun, or what's the secret, or how few words can we use to express this huge feeling. Or no, maybe actually it needs a whole big expression of feeling here. I've just always been so deeply in love with the theater and with live performance, and I don't know where that comes from. That's just how it ended up.
You were destined to fall in love with it. That's just,
yeah.
So do you have like a favorite role that you've gone to play that kind of like really changed your mind of like, yeah, this is it. This is what I'm meant to be doing?
Well, I do remember in high school going to see a production of Hamlet. I was in, I think I was in maybe 9th grade, and my English class went to see a production. And, you know, I sat and I thought, that's what I want to do. And, you know, it was play Hamlet, which I have never been able to do. But it was a really exciting production, and there were sword fights, and it appealed to, you know, the size of that play and the journey that those characters go on, and the messiness of it. So I actually did a lot of training with Shakespeare, and I have gotten to play some great Shakespearean roles, including some great men. I was part of an all-female Shakespeare company for a few years, which is so much fun. And And I think that that's really, really good training for any performer. Doing Shakespeare and performing for children and doing improv comedy, those three, like if you do those three things, you can do anything. That's what I
Those
think.
are the three scariest things.
The three scariest things. No.
The thing I was touring in was for children's theater, and I will tell you, it is some of the most brutal theater to do.
They're
They
so
are
brutal.
so completely honest. I got booed.
But were you were you intense?
They were mad at the character.
Yeah. No,
It was like a good boo, but it's just like, for a second, it's like, are they booing me because they didn't like? But no, it's just because they're so engaged.
Yeah.
And it's, no, I encourage everyone to do children's theater.
Such great, like, boy, talk about being present. You gotta be right there all the time. It's super fun. Super fun.
So how does the transition from actor to playwright happen?
As part of the development process for a playwright, generally when you have an early draft of a play, like, because it doesn't really exist until you hear it. So, playwrights will want to do readings of their work. So like you guys are doing a reading of a play that's already been workshopped, but, early on, and I'm sorry if you know this, you'll take a half a play or a draft or like this weird thing I wrote, and you give it to some actors. And oftentimes theater companies will invite audience too, so that the playwright can get a feedback from an audience saying, oh, I was confused here, or I loved this, can we do more of that? So I was an actor I was living in Minneapolis, and I was doing a lot of staged readings. It just happened that I kept getting called to do stage readings. And I loved the process of being part of the conversation of like, why does this happen? And what a cool setting. And I loved that process even more than I loved doing the readings. And I came home from a reading, and I flipped on the light in my apartment, and I thought, oh, I'm expending a lot of creative energy supporting someone's artistic vision, which I love and which is awesome, but do I have an artistic vision, right? Do I have a vision? And I had never thought about that. I mean, when you're an actor, you like get a part, and then you do the part, and you hope you get cast, and you're always ready to work, but I had never asked myself, if I were creating work, what would it be? And so I didn't know what the answer was, but I just started writing, and I ended up gravitating towards stories that I already knew the story of, and they tended to be a lot of family stories, either things that had happened in my home when I was a kid, or things my parents had told me. My family's from Cuba, and so there's a lot of great stories in their lives, grandparents and sort of family legends. And because I was in plays, I tended to hear dialogue rather than like, the sun set on the harbor. I was people arguing or people talking, and I heard people in two languages and generational stuff. And that was the beginning of what I discovered was that I was really interested in my heritage, and I was really interested in a conversation that is very fraught between Cuba and the United States. And so a number of my plays look at those questions. But then there's also things like I Love the Theater, and Caroline in Jersey is a play about actors. It's a play about performers. It's a play about being in the wrong place at the wrong time. It's a play about, fear. It's a long story, but what I think I always like to emphasize is that I didn't start writing because I had something to say. I started writing because I didn't know what I had to say, and I was interested in finding out. And we get taught in school, and you know, you have to have a thesis and you have to have your supporting, like you have to know the end, and that's a great way to write, but that's not how I write. I tend to start with a lot of questions and make discoveries, and sometimes it's really frustrating because then I just get stuck and I don't know where to go, and it's horrible. But it can also be really fun to learn. I didn't know that I thought that, or I didn't know that I knew that about people. I have a friend who actually wrote the role of David with one of my dear friends in mind. He's an actor and I adore him. I wrote the play and I gave it to him to read, and his father had recently died. And he wrote me back and he said, how did you know all this stuff about grief? Because at the time I had not experienced the kind of grief that the characters in the play experience. And that was just a really interesting thing to hear. And I feel like we have this, there's like a body of knowledge that many of us share. There's kind of human things that we understand about what it's like to be in love, what it's like to be afraid, what it's like to want a better life, or you know, that there's a kind of humanity that even if we haven't lived that life, we can access some of those things through characters that we create. Mm-hmm. And so and also there's a lot of responsibility that goes with that, and you know, if you're representing people that you really, you know, there's a lot of responsibility that goes with that. But I like to think at its best that playwriting is an incredibly democratic and egalitarian art form, because it's you know, imagination and language, and you don't need a lot more than that to write a play.
So you're also a professor, aren't you?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
How did you transfer into like teaching?
So basically everything I've ever done in my life, you know, someone said, do you do that? And I'd say, yeah. And then I learned how to do it. Like, you know, I'll tell you a not very funny story about, you know, I was just out of college and I was getting settled and I needed a job. So, you know, what do you do when you want to be an actor? You get you know, you work in a restaurant, and I went to a restaurant and they said, do you have experience? And I said, yes. And I got a job, and I had never waited a table in my life. And my first shift was brunch, which, you know, brunch is very serious. And it was a huge disaster because I thought I would remember everyone's order. So I'm smart. I remember who got the eggs Benedict without the thing, and I didn't, of course. And then I would just get plates and walk up and down and just give people food. It was terrible. So basically, that's that's what I do. But no, sure. You know, I feel like I had good teachers, and I got a graduate degree, whatever, and I've been teaching at the university level for 20 years or so. I started teaching performance, and I have lately been teaching playwriting, and also what I really love to do with students is you know, sort of look at a broad range of plays over the course of, you know, starting from the Greeks to contemporary, and look at when the play was written, why it was written, you know, was it addressing a social injustice? Was the playwright, you know, involved in some organization, whatever? And how the plays were received at the time that they were written. And so what's great about that is we get history, we get sociology, sometimes you get, health, you get government. You can learn about so many different things when you study theater. We talk about financial models for theaters, what does a board do? The small professional model, the regional theater model, the for-profit model. Who is this theater company serving? Who is the audience for this play? So, I'm a kind of a magpie. I like to grab lots of different things and knit them together into some kind of cohesive narrative. And I also have the opportunity to, get forced to read new plays every year, which I also love. Like, there's so many great playwrights that are creating work now, and I really enjoy trying to stay up to speed with them. So I'll actually be starting a new I'll be a full-time professor at Northeastern University in the fall.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And then I also have a class of graduate students in playwriting at Boston University. So I do both of those things. I help shepherd playwrights into their next career as professional writers. And the thing that's useful about having to teach something is that you suddenly, it seems so obvious, but in articulating why a thing is the way it is, or asking questions about it, your own artistry gets better, and stronger, and more conscious, and you're clearer about the decisions and the choices that you make as a practitioner of that art. So I don't believe, those who can't teach. I think you have to be extra good at what you do in order to teach it.
Mm.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that you like reading new plays and finding new playwrights. Do you have a favorite playwright?
Question.
Yeah, I certainly love revisiting Shakespeare, although there are some of his plays that I never need to see again. I love Susan Laurie Parks. I love Lynn Nottage. Octavio Solis is a playwright. He's based in Oregon that I love. He has a great adaptation of Don Quixote called Quixote Nuevo, which is set on the Texas border. And it's just a beautiful contemporary adaptation of that story. It's like full of magic and these, costumes and creatures, and it's also really beautiful commentary on aging and on, so I love him. Paula Vogel, probably a lot of the same playwrights that you guys love. August Wilson is a favorite for sure. Do you know like the plays of Jose Rivera? He's also amazing. Puerto Rican, he's a New Yorican. Yeah, a number of them.
I love finding new playwrights.
Right.
I've never heard about, so please do.
Yeah, that's been a huge perk of starting this company, is it's opened us up. We are constantly finding new plays because we're like, well, what would work on Zoom? How can we make this work?
Yeah, we actually just did a workshop with a new female, like an up and coming female playwright. We were she has it was like a short 10-minute play.
Yeah.
We were getting, this is the first time we had it read out loud with her, and it was just so much fun we had a small little panel of people to sit in on it and watch it.
Yeah. The 10-minute format is really tough. It's crazy that everyone starts out writing 10-minute plays because they're much harder to write than there's all these rules, and it's yeah.
Oh, absolutely. One
Yeah,
of the plays that we're doing from another different female up and coming writer, we were talking the other day, and she's like, Madison, this started out 10 pages and now it's 84, and I don't know how it happened.
That's awesome. That's such a great view. I know. And nothing was there, right? There was nothing there before. And now there's this whole thing. It's so crazy how that works, making things, you know? And the thing that's so like, is that, you know, with theater, I mean, we're looking at different models now, but like, it doesn't last, you know? It won't last. Like the play, even from night to night, you know, the play you saw the production you saw yesterday is not the production that they're doing tonight. And that thing about like striking a show and all that work that you went into it, and whoop, it's gone, right? And I mean, it's really melancholy. And I feel like it's also, I talked about practicing feeling things and having a chance to put on other identities and practice that compassion. But I also always feel like the plays that kill me the most are the ones where an individual comes up against their own mortality. Plays, films, books, but then they realize that there's a moment where they realize, oh my God, have I lived the life that used my talents? Have I given myself to a cause that matters? Like, when the time comes for me to leave the world, will I face that with courage and peace, or will I have regret? You know, it's like there's all these moments that for me really solidify what theater can do. And it's replicated in the act of, you make a play, you give everything to it, and then it's gone. And also for an audience member, like, you have to get your butt to the theater to experience it. And if you don't get your butt to the theater, then you will have missed it. There's something about that that's so profoundly, like, there's a life lesson in that I find very powerful, and often fail at too, but I'm glad to try to replicate it as much as I can. So that's my 2 cents.
No, that was just so beautifully put. Like, you do have to get yourself, like, I think sometimes, like, back to times where, like, I missed an opportunity to go see a show, and I'm like, what stopped me?
Yeah. Well, and it's there's an investment there, like, and I love all the screens. I love all that. I love being able to watch a great movie from the comfort of my bed in my pajamas. You know, I love that. And I think, you know, television is an incredible medium right now. But the thing about the theater is you have to go. You have to, like, put on clothes and go out in public and experience these things with other people. And right, usually, not now, but that the point of being vulnerable in front of a community and sharing and knowing that everyone around you also has gone through the same, you know, journey. And you enter that theater as strangers and you leave having shared something together. And again, I talked about feeling like theater was so democratic. Unfortunately, it's so expensive and it's gotten so elitist, and then there's all these reasons why you can't go, and then people feel like they're not represented. But I think at its heart, at its best, it has the power to do that. You know, that's got to be worth saving. Yeah, it's got to be worth saving.
100%. I'm very curious to see how theater is going to turn out after all of this.
Yeah.
But it's definitely, I like, my hope is like that people go forward, and because it's something that doesn't need to be saved.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think it's on us to prove that it's necessary. Like, I've been thinking a lot about, you know, obviously in times of great crisis, you think, well, how can I help? How can I be of service? Where can I put my energy? How can I make this better? And I've been thinking a lot about that. How can I help? How can I be of service? Where can I put my voice? And I also think it's true that, you know, a lot of folks have been fine without theater, and they won't miss it. They don't miss it now because they, you know, they didn't need it before. And so is there a way to bring it back to, like, well, like you're doing, right? Making it more available, or bring it back to the community. Something that we did at the Huntington is we started offering, in order to help address social isolation, especially for seniors, you can sign up with us and we will call you and read you a monologue over the phone. So for like people who don't have really great facility with the internet, or it's sketchy, or they don't know how to use Zoom, or that, you know what I mean? Like, they don't have that kind of facility that you and I have, or probably more so you have. They can sign up, or a loved one can sign up for them and say, will you call my grandmother? She loves this play. Will you call my mother? She's all alone, and, you know, read her, this is her favorite play, or this is a play we saw together at the theater that means a lot to her. And an actor or someone who works there, could be the like marketing director, will call you up and read to you. So like, that's wildly impractical. Like, right? You know, a business person would say, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. But like, what we do is we help people feel less alone. Yeah. That's what theater does. So I don't know. That's one thing we've been doing.
Yeah. I love that so much. I've never heard of any other theater company done that. I don't know if any there are, but I love that.
I don't think I haven't heard of many doing it. And I keep thinking, if I had a head for business, like, is there a way to scale it up? Mm-hmm. Or like get a school, like, you know, all the students in the theater department are going to make phone calls to all the seniors in this home, you know, or everyone read this play. And like, I don't know, like, is there a way? So, because it's live. Mm-hmm. The point is that you call, and then you like give them a piece of theater, and then you say, how's your day? Like, and they tell you something about themselves, and then you tell them something about yourself, and suddenly there's something that existed there that didn't exist before. Mm-hmm. That's about people connecting, not just through a screen, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that one thing that I've noticed throughout this pandemic and everything going on is that people are turning to the arts to find an escape and find any kind of connection, whether that be their own emotions or somebody else's. Yeah. And I'm hoping that people are experiencing this and finding that they love this as much as somebody who before this loved theater and stuff like that, and then can transfer that love and going into this new world that's going to end up being created out of this. Yeah. And go experience theater and find that there's a whole new way of connection that they may not have ever dreamt of before.
Well, and I hope we also figure out what that can be. You know, can it be cheaper? Can it be during the day? Can it be outside? Can it, you know, be mobile? Can it travel easier? I heard this crazy story about this theater in New Hampshire. I'm not going to remember the name of it. So they do musicals, and at the beginning of their quarantine, all the actors, it's like a company of 6 or 8 actors, they just all quarantined at the theater. Like they all quarantined with themselves, each other. And so they've been doing performances that they film and then they can send out. But since they're all quarantined together, they just keep working together. So like, and wouldn't that be an amazing TV show too? Like, wouldn't you want to watch that show? So they like live together, they work together, they don't see anybody else. And they're just kind of like monks making these like wild musicals. And the, you know, the TV, like all the people who build the shows and everything. I have to get this link. It was in the New York Times, so it has to be true, right? I'll figure out what it is. And then, you know, they don't have an audience, but they are able to, I think they do like 3 performances a week or something, and they film them. Yeah, it sounded hilarious.
That's wild.
But the, you know, the thing about making, like I've always thought that, right, we're all, when I say artists, it's how you organize chaos in your life, right? And so some people bake like crazy baking, and some people make quilts or clothing or crochet or knit, or some people write short stories, or they like do incredible birthday parties for, you know, people they love. But like a way to take what you love and put it in a form that makes sense. And especially now we're living through so many different iterations of chaos and terrible times and violence and oppression and we're grappling with this new world and our place in it. How can I serve? How can I be part of the solution? How can I help move forward, right? And our great artists that have mastered their form help lead us. Whether they paint, you know, the murals that are coming out, like people painting these incredible murals, and public art especially, trying to give voice to so much, such challenging times. Like I think that's the highest aspiration. You know, on a smaller scale, you're like, all these feelings I have, how can I put them into a form that can be, you know, can be shared? And so some of us do that by constructing a story, right? And stories accomplish a lot. They help give perspective on our own experience, and they help, again, like bring a community together. But there are so many ways to be a person who makes art. You know, we happen to do it in this medium, but I also, like, I always want to encourage everyone, like, write your family stories down, you know, write that stuff your mother told you, put it in a poem, put it in some form that people coming after you will see it and will learn. Like make things. Yes, make things.
Absolutely. So we don't want to take up too much more of your time, but I have a few questions about Carolina and Jersey that I have to know.
Okay.
So one of my first questions, because I really love this show. So when you were with the play within the play, how'd you come up with the play about pets?
So that's actually based on a real show that my friend David was in, which was a musical review that some producer put like $1 million into, and it was all like famous people's cats. So I totally stole that. But you know, Caroline's character, and that wasn't part of it. But like I sort of found Leica and the Leica. and Laika's whole history and the Russian space dog, and that just seemed like something that like needed to be in the show. But yeah, so I stole that. I know, like Shakespeare, I stole all the good stuff. And I also, you know, I wanted to write a part for my friend David and my friend Will, who had been in the original production of Sonia Flew, and is this incredible musician. And so I wanted to give him some music to play, and then that's how the music got into it. And like he, you know, plays the piano beautifully. So that answer your question? Yeah, I could never have thought of that. But it wasn't pets with a Z. The Z was my part. That's what I added.
That's what you added.
Oh, it's such a better answer than I could have ever imagined. I went to find this. Okay.
Yeah, and I think he also had the moment where he was like, oh my God, this is my life. This is my life. Like, I thought I was going to be X, and now I'm actually in a show called Pets. So it was hard for him.
Fair enough, fair enough, fair enough.
All right.
I want to meet your friend David. Sorry.
What?
I said, I want to meet your friend David now.
Yeah, we love him. I love him.
Oh, goodness. So what inspired you to write this play in particular?
I don't know. I think I love stories about actors. You know, my favorite movies all have some, you know, some variation of like actors in trouble that have to act their way out of trouble, you know, Galaxy Quest or any of those. And, you know, I guess I was getting older, and I was like, my life, and where can I, you know, well, can I put this into something? You know, those characters are really fictional. I had a friend who told me about a ghost that lived in her house that actually, like, this used to be in the play, which I ended up cutting, but, you know, her story was like, this ghost actually, like, got her into the basement, and then like she found a gun, and the house had been owned by other people. There was like all this mystery around it, and I thought maybe that would be the play for a while, but then it wasn't. But like, what would it be like to have this person, and all the threads of like death of a salesman, and you know, what's bad luck in the theater, and just Caroline grappling with all those questions. Like, I used to know who I was when I was you know, married to someone, and I had this other life, and just having to start over again. I just found that just moving and really funny too. Like, I hope the play is really funny. So that's not a very good answer. It's a mystery.
It's a great answer.
Yeah, it's a mystery.
So you said that all these characters are fictional. It's something like David's based off of.
Yeah.
Friend. And but one thing that Rachel and I both were talking about is how complex each character is, and we can see a distinct character arc. And a lot of times we'll read scripts, whether that be in school or something, we have to, like, you know, dig a little bit to see like where things are going or who this character really is. And we thought you just did such a beautiful job of bringing all of the complexities in there and then just letting them be out there. Yeah. So how did you go about writing that part of the characters?
This is something that so I don't have a good answer, but like I don't do an outline. And I don't really do too much like character background. I tend, I think, because of my Shakespeare training, to like think the words are going to tell me who that person is. Mm. And so, you know, a number of drafts, but I frequently tell my students that it sounds really, but like the play will tell you. The play will tell you. Every play is different. it has its own rules. The construction is different. Like sometimes I'll know this play is 75 minutes and there's no break and no one should be able to take a breath. Or this play is 2 acts and it's really classic. Or this play, the first act is in the present and the second act is in the past. Or like I'll get a sense, and then I just try to listen. You know, there's a lot in the piece that I struggled with, and like the discovery, like I didn't know that Caroline had lost a baby when I started. Oh, spoiler alert! Sorry. Like I didn't know that, but I knew there was something more than being sad about her marriage. Like I knew that there was more to her than what she was showing me. Mm-hmm. And I guess that that's a thing, I guess, is to have faith that what your characters show you is not everything. And then that, I guess that takes patience for the writer. There are times when I know, oh, this person has a secret right from the beginning and I know what the secret is, but that's less interesting. It's so much less interesting than, so it was that moment, that scene with David, they were, you know, she was very vulnerable. They were both in this place where they, you know, he pushed her, he's mad at her for other things, and that this friendship is so important. It's the friendship that matters. You know, that he's able to bring that out of her. So like that was really satisfying. That was really satisfying discovery. You know, the other thing is that when we got into rehearsal and like the actress came out in the dog costume and I just lost my mind. Like it was so funny to, you know, and so then there's also delightful things where like she's singing this song, but it's just like, no. So yeah, so the collision of funny and sad really appeals to me.
That shows a lot. I read Mala.
Oh yeah.
I thought beautiful. Would love to see you do it. If you ever want to revive it, let me know.
So that actually filmed it, and it was available to stream for a month, but it's not available anymore. It was the PBS, the public television. Mm-hmm. But they say they may reissue it. I think you can, you know, if you're a member, you don't want to buy it, but I think they're going to reissue it in the fall. So if and when that happens, I will let you know, because you can actually watch me do it. So, and they did a really nice job. It's you know, they did a bunch of cameras, and it's really, they did a nice job.
That's so cool. Oh yeah. Yes, I think I'm watching my mother kind of going something very similar to it right now. She's learning to kind of take care of her parents.
Yeah.
At this age right now, and it's not. And she's like, she said it. She's like, I feel like I'm kind of like walking blindly in it. And
yeah. So like that's you know, obviously generated from extremely personal experience, mm-hmm. but also like, why is there no help? Why don't we talk to each other? Why does our, you know, I'm not saying we all do it poorly, but like, it's the experience of getting up to that moment and going, oh my God, I'm completely unprepared. Mm-hmm. And I feel so alone. And I wanted to write something that gave people permission to talk about it. We're getting better. Mm-hmm. We're getting better. But yeah, that was scary, being the performer in it.
That's a very vulnerable place to be. No, I appreciate you for doing it.
Best of luck, you guys, with this whole project. It's amazing what you're doing.
Thank you so much. Yeah. And thank you for letting us take an hour of your time to talk with us.
Appreciate it.
You take care.
YouTube.
Day.
Bye-bye.